Ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you here to the evening of Day 5, the Glory Days. We've got a new look venue as I'm joined by, I can't really come up with a name for him here, but I'm going to go with
Skippy.
Bruce.
Skippy.
Bruce the Kangaroo. Our usual hosts are actually commentating on Court 1, so if you're over on Court 1, you might be checking out what's going on there if you're smart enough to run two screens. So I've replaced my usual guests with CMAS Tournament Director and Technical Delegate for the tournament, Tristan Reynard. Tristan, welcome back to the Glory Days.
Thanks, Nick. It's great to be here. And with your new named Bruce, is quite cool. He's quite attractive
Yeah,
for a
Bruce,
kangaroo.
yeah, number 12 for the inflatable Australian team there. He's got a lot of competition at this tournament with Eric the Elephant, and then there's a boat floating around somewhere. I've seen a small pool used as there's a lot of inventive drink bottle holders going on this tournament, Tris.
Yeah, it's great to see the inflatables. Just a little bit of personality in each game.
Yes, no, it's been a lovely day here, Day 5. We started a bit Bridgewater Jerry, a bit of a foggy morning in Hobart, and then the sun came out and we got underway with the competition. And we were just sitting here on the couch prior to going live having a look at these results. And Tristan, it has been an amazing tournament for tight results so far.
It's been great. And, was it 0-0 last night? I think France, GB, amazing. Then there's a 1-1, I think, sometime today as well. And you're just seeing it. But more importantly, I think you see 5 or 6 teams are really only a goal apart. And that's, I think we said it this morning. We were walking around just having a look at all the setup of the pool complex. Quarterfinals day is going to be really intense.
Yeah,
it's going to be awesome.
There's going to be some happy team, and there's going to be a lot of tears because it really is going to be a tough day on Thursday for all the athletes. And good luck to them all in their preparations. And we'll be doing a really quite a long Glory Days tomorrow night just to really dig into the roster and take apart some of those quarterfinals. And we'll be getting some expert people onto a panel and having a bit of look and getting some predictions on game results and taking it apart. So that should be a good intro. Steve Cars, I'm not going to keep that to 10 minutes. We'll probably do 10 minutes a division, I reckon. So it'll probably be around a 30-minute, 40-minute. But we'll have some special guest coaches. We'll have a few referees on. We'll really look into the program and take it all apart. So it should be interesting. So to get stuck into some of the results from today in the under-19 men's division. Yeah, I reckon I've pulled these out wrong, Tris, to be honest. But so did that happen this morning? Yes, it did. I know. I've got them right. So under-19 men's, the Aussie boys jumped in against Great Britain this afternoon, going down to top of the table, GB 3-1. Interesting game to see the Australians finally starting to find their feet in only a 2-goal loss to the top of the table.
Yeah, I think Australia has put both their captain and vice-captain have been on the sick roster. So they're back in the water. I don't think they're feeling too flash just yet, but to me, seeing that result kind of matches up at the beginning of the tournament as well when they had a 2-1 against the Kiwis as well. So I see the GB, France, New Zealand and Australia, that's looking really solid for that top 4. But you can't write off Colombia and South Africa. They're just as close. So it's a very tight grade, the under-19 men.
Absolutely. So that GB Australia game, that's 1 versus 6 in that division, and it's separated by 2 goals, which is just fantastic hockey. The other game there, which was really tight, Colombia, three goals getting over South Africa, 1 goal in a nail-biter, which was commentated by Hein and Stu, having a great time in the booth there together.
Look, I suppose clash of the styles there. The big, strong South African physical style versus basically pack the puck and move with speed. Obviously, to me, South Africa, obviously a lot bigger team generally than the Colombians. And to see that result, look, quarterfinal day in that under-19 men's division, maybe that's going to be where the real upsets will be.
Yeah, no, it's definitely going to be a tough day for those teams. And I haven't got the draw in front of me, Tris, but what do we end up doing with the quarterfinals for the under-19 boys? Because I think there's 8 teams in that division.
So there's 8 teams, so they go straight into a quarterfinal. So 1 v8, 2 v7.
So everyone gets a chance.
Everybody's got a chance. So I think, look, 1 to 6. If you go and have a look, I seriously suspect 3 versus 6 and 4 versus 5. They're going to be such a close match. So I think referees will have to be really on their game. We're going to have to play a bit more advantage, I think, as well, and make sure things are really fair and let the teams sort out the result.
Yeah, I mean, at the moment it's GB, France, New Zealand, Colombia sitting in the top 4. So, you know, there's a couple of teams missing out of there, and then a 6v3 Australia-New Zealand quarterfinal is going to be a heartbreaker for someone, Tris.
Yeah, it's a deja vu for New Zealand big time. So, look, I think I've talked to Sam Cooper. He was having a quiet chat with me today. I think the guys are pretty positive. They know they felt they let themselves down against GB in France, and maybe, you know, a little bit of discipline, a little bit of focus. Look, there's lots of factors. You know, it's the mind, I suspect. When you look at 1 or 2 goals, it's one mistake.
It's a lot of pressure on a junior athlete to perform with the expectations and the level that's being put on at a World Championships. And look, I think, to be honest, we've seen fantastic effort from all the athletes so far, and they're really it's really going well here for all of them. So we'll switch over to the under-19 women's division, where quite a few games in here that I thought were quite interesting today. Colombia 6 getting over GB 3. GB have been a fairly solid team. New Zealand girls obviously knocking off the world champs there, South Africa, 3-0 victory there. The USA only going down by 1 goal to Colombia, 3-2, which was, that for me was a great effort by those US girls.
Yeah, I had Kendall Bax, one of the coaches for the US women, come in and have a chat, just looking through his seating. So I think they had a draw during one of the other matches. So I think they're just trying to also see where they're sitting in the seating. Probably trying to avoid New Zealand, Australia, South Africa. You know, I think most of them will, you know, if he can get the 4th, 5th playoff, at least he gets himself into a semi-final, and then there is an option of a medal. Lose the quarterfinal and there's no medals to go home with.
Yeah, quarterfinal day is always the most stressful day as a player, I reckon. It's the one where, if you don't deliver, it's where it all kind of, you get left wishing and hoping and wondering. And once that quarterfinal's over, I find the semis a much more relaxed affair, because regardless, you're kind of in the hunt for the silverware. You know, you always want to be in the grand final game, but you know, you're not out of it if you're in that semi. And when you go away with the expectations of wanting to win a Worlds or trying to defend a World Championship, and you find yourself knocked down in the quarters, it's a long, hard walk home at the end of that day.
It's really hard also for the teams to pick themselves up, because if they are not careful, then they'll drop down the rankings. Now, when we actually get more than 12 teams, the rankings from this tournament will affect the groupings for the next tournament. So they've got to be careful, and that's hard because they're demotivated. They've lost what they've worked, probably in some cases 18 months to 2 years, and it's all over in 37 minutes.
And we might not know whether that ranking system comes into play until 6 months before the tournament, when entries close for teams to come in. And so you might find yourself, you know, wishing from last tournament, well, God, if we had played harder in that 5-6 playoff, we would have been in this other group over here. So it's definitely, every game matters and every minute of hockey is important. So the other game in there, which was a really tight one, Australia 2 versus GB 1, just getting over the line there, the Aussie girls.
Yeah, I think... you know, as a New Zealander watching Australia, we kind of know it's a slow starting team, and look, they're playing some nice hockey. Look, I think they'll come good, and New Zealand and South Africa, watch out, because obviously there was a draw between Australia and South Africa, and then from memory the New Zealanders were only a 1 or 2 goals as well, so there's nothing in those top 3.
No. New Zealand clearly top of the table at the moment, but the top 4 in the under-19 women's at the moment. It goes New Zealand, Australia, South Africa, Colombia, obviously with a few curly things in there because of the way the games are working. A couple of teams playing different numbers of games tomorrow, so we'll have a clear understanding at the end of tomorrow.
Definitely will, and like, I think one of the things we're starting to see, South Africa started really strong. Kiwis got over them, but Kiwis extended their scoreline. Then the South Africans beat Australia, and then in the second round robin there was a draw. So I'm starting to question actually whether South Africa have got enough fitness, because now we're starting to get into the business end, and these results are just starting to tighten up across all the South African games.
No, it's an interesting the way the cookies crumble. I think for me the real impressive has been the fitness of the European teams, and we've only really got, you know, I better not forget anyone because I'll get in trouble, but GB and France being the 2 kind of main European countries that have travelled, and Turkey, of course, in the 23 men's. But certainly the French and the GB teams across most divisions, but especially in the under-19 boys, look incredibly fit and incredibly well drilled.
Yeah, they are, and I think if I go back into my coaching history with the junior grades, you know, I did 2 or 3 worlds with the juniors. I kind of seen the body shape of the GB boys definitely has improved a lot.
I think there's been less chips and pints down the pub and, more protein shakes and pumping in the gym, I think.
Yeah, and I think also GB are starting to get a lot more of an elite high-performance program in place, and it's starting to come through in the play. So across the board, I definitely see a big change. France, to me, seems to be that they had their natural strength on the wall. However, what we're starting to see is that they're more dynamic in opening up the play, very similar to New Zealand and getting closer towards Australia in terms of that. So I'm seeing that, and I'm starting to worry because, we know they've got a traditional strength, and it's not a New Zealand-Australia strength, but they're now starting to be able to compete in the natural areas that we expect New Zealand-Australia is strong. So.
Well, maybe it's finally some of that work that Tom R and Jacques and all those guys did when they came out and lived in Perth for all that time, trying to figure out what it is that those weird Australians are doing down there and trying to take that back to France. Maybe that's filtering down a little bit. But
it's taken a while.
Yeah, it's only been, 20 years?
Yeah, that's right.
But I'm sure there's some French people swearing at me for saying that. But anyway, we'll get it out there. So then let's have a look at the under-23 men's division. A tight game this morning, Colombia, 2-0, getting over South Africa. A really tight game for my Australian boys against GB, getting over them in the last 6 seconds to win a 3-2.
Yeah.
And then we had a really interesting one tonight, Tris. The Kiwi boys had a little bit of a brain fade or showed up to the wrong pool or something happened, and they found themselves 6-1 down to the Turks in what just seemed to be a game where the Turks just had an answer for everything.
Look, Turkey, they've done a lot of talk with the referees in the last couple of days. They've been worried about their bin time. I watched a couple of their matches and noticed actually the refs were not too bad, actually. Unfortunately, a couple of times they had a general warning call, and suddenly that was resulting in bin time. And I think on the stats we saw maybe one or two players may have been the main offenders. So today, New Zealand, I thought it's a 1-1, 0-0 type match. It was going to be a slugfest, and it wasn't. But when we go and look at the stats, the Turkish, I think they had like 3 minutes of bin time.
Yeah, no, they were very, very disciplined in there, which was very surprising. For me, I expected actually your boys to run away there, probably 3 or 4 goals to none. I really thought they had it, but it just seemed to be that the Turks were just managing to sneak that puck in behind, and just that the Kiwi boys were getting caught in front of the puck there and just seemed to put their heads down a little bit early and didn't really come back. And whether that was a matter of the result not meaning a huge amount in the end of the way the standings were figuring out, or whether it just wasn't their day today. Sometimes it is hard to pick yourself up when someone gets a couple of quick goals against you. But look, the Turks looked a lot more disciplined. They weren't throwing their usual kind of craziness, and they really seemed to have the Kiwi boys' number today.
Yeah, I think, look, Matt Hart, the coach, the manager, Rachel Arbuckle, they'll sit down, they'll work hard. I think ultimately it'll bring everybody back into perspective that it's not a canter. They've been playing some really nice hockey, but this is game 7, I think, now they're up to. So, look, there's bound to be 1 or 2 days where they do have a bad day. I couldn't put my finger on it.
I mean, either watching it, it was a tough one to see, but I think quite often you learn a lot more from a loss. It highlights some of the things that maybe you haven't been focusing on because you've been getting away with them. And for me, I think the Kiwi boys have been using a lot of their size and physical presence on the bottom to win contests, and then they tried to put that in there against a team that was bigger and won the physical contests on the day, and that left them not being able to get those fast swimmers away and play that open game that we've all been enjoying watching, where they're playing a really quick open style of hockey.
Yeah, look, obviously now I think there was a bit of online chat, we'll see in the final. Well, I still think there's a few other teams that they just get motivated by that type of talk. So, there's not a lot in that under-23 grade. I think if I look back to Spain, the seeding, there was 4 changes in the seeding through the playoffs. So it's anyone's call, really.
Oh, absolutely. And look, if Matt Hart needs any tips, he can go back to the Castellon Grand Final game. I'm more than happy for him to watch our match from there if he can see anything on the screen, because I think we certainly managed to control the Turks in that one. But I've been told I have to try and squeeze that into every show, so I'm going to keep working on that.
Yeah, let's move on.
Yeah, it's very quick. The last one, the Australians basically following in the Kiwis' footsteps and having a brain fade there, and the French getting over them 3-0 in the last game in the men's 23, which makes it really interesting. Top 4 sitting there at the moment. Turkey clear on top. New Zealand, Colombia, France, top 4 teams. So bit of a change from last time there for sure, Tris.
Yeah, that's interesting. Obviously, France, Australia, definite clash of styles. But as we've been noticing with the French, they are a bit more relaxed.
Not their under-23s, mate. Definitely their 19s are playing a bit more of that. But tonight it was a very, very clinical, very typical French approach. Very straight, very strong. And they got heaps of numbers on the bottom, and a credit to them. They ran away with that one.
Yeah, in a couple of other games watching them, they were a bit more open. Maybe that was actually a coaching tactic change there to go, look, naturally Australia, in my mind, very strong in the middle. French, in my mind again, naturally dominates the wall. Yeah. And maybe that was, we're going to beat Australia. We know the game plan that does that. And they executed it.
It was a very stop-start game, which certainly helped with that contested hockey. So, But no, it's a really interesting division, the men's 23s, with really those top probably 7 or 8 teams. You got that top 4, Turkey, New Zealand, Colombia, France, but then you drop down to 5, Australia, 6. You've got GB coming in there as well. And then, the Argentinians not to be written off the way they're developing throughout this tournament. So it's going to be a fantastic quarterfinal day on Thursday.
Yeah, I think you see the South American teams. They get a sniff of a victory. They're 10 feet tall. And when they get that sniff, the whole place erupts with noise. So God help us during those type of games. It's going to have the earplugs.
It's just a furnace that runs on passion, and they seem to have a bottomless pit, an exhaustible amount of passion when things are going their way, and it is great to watch. So we'll move across to the under-23 ladies division, where we've the French and the Aussies had a nail-biter today in 2-1 victory to the French, with them. The French basically playing the last 4 minutes of the game with only 4 or 5 players in, and the Aussies just not able to convert there. So that was a tough one. We then had the top of the table Kiwis up against the defending world champs, the Colombians. Kiwis there getting away with a strong 2-0 victory over the Colombians, and Coach Pipe really taking his girls and probably got a few things to work on there to try and get over what is quite a dominant New Zealand under-23 women's team at the moment, Tristan.
Yeah, look, from Spain, that team's a little bit changed. New coach came in, a couple of players were made available, which were actually sitting in the elite squad as well. So this is, one of our best ever, I think, under-23 New Zealand women's teams. The coach is onto it, elite player. She's been coaching now three or 4 competitions, so she knows what she's about. And she's really focused, and she does a hell of a lot of homework. I tell you, you should see her paperwork. It's amazing. So, like Emma has the girls juiced. Jess Love is the manager, actually, one of the elite girls as well. And she's very particular as well. So it's a great combo. I think the team will keep going, and they'll get really motivated from the Colombian victory. Yeah. But they're also aware that I think that the result to me that really counts there is they kept them to 0 to Colombia, and they know to deal with Colombia, you cannot let them score. And they'll be really focused on that. And so that, forget the 2 goals, the 0 thing, that will be really the message that they'll really be taking a lot of pride from.
Yeah, it's definitely it's a good confidence builder for a team, knowing that they've got that faith in their defence that, okay, it lets them then know, all right, we can try this, we can experiment, we can play with some confidence, move the puck around and not be afraid of what's going to happen at the end result, because we've got faith and trust and belief that our team can defend and clear that. So that's a real confidence booster for those Kiwi girls. So then the other interesting game there, South Africa getting over the line just 3-2 over the GB girls in what was another nail biter.
Yeah, and it's we keep talking about it game after game, 1 goal. Not much more you can say. One mistake, somebody with a little bit more passion, that's all it is. Turn it around tomorrow, play the same game, and it'll reverse the result. So, look, we don't have to look too far to think about Worlds last year. Be up by 4 goals and we can lose it 5-4.
I'm glad it's you that brought that up and not me, because
I just thought I'd put it on the table so that I deal with that issue straight up. But we've seen that before, not particularly from a New Zealand side, but across the board. We've seen 5-goal type splits being reversed in the knockout round. So when I see these 1 goals, man, quarterfinal day. It's going to be an amazing day of hockey.
Yeah, look, it's been a fantastic tournament for those results, and we've seen hockey is only getting better and better in that, teams. It's now going 6-8, and we spoke about this in the glory days at the start of the competition that, it's going to be exciting to see how close it is, and I think it's certainly exceeded my expectations. I don't know about you, Tristan.
Oh, look, I thought from Spain, I know I got hauled into a high-performance meeting with the New Zealand guys, and I just said, look, we haven't gone backwards. The world's caught up. Yeah. These teams are well prepped. We see stuff from South Africa. They're in training camps every 6 weeks or so. Suddenly we're seeing the Argentinians, and we've seen some Facebook work. They've been working really hard with lots of kids from about 9 years of age upwards. So.
And their engagement with hockey is just unbelievable. They're our largest audience. They're our highest posters. They're our highest engagement with YouTube, with Facebook, with Twitter, with Instagram. Not just by a little bit, they're kind of a couple of % ahead of everywhere else. And Colombia is the only place that's really competing with them.
Yeah, I wonder it's population as well, but you imagine trying to get some of those cities like Buenos Aires, really, really going with hockey. You suddenly turn around and go, well, that's 5,000 players, and it's more than what France have got. So, look, that'll be. I think Argentina's just going to go from strength to strength and watch out at the elite level.
Yeah, so no, it's going to be really interesting to see. I mean, for us in Australia, we've been thinking a lot about the Asian countries and what's going on there, and there's been a lot of work done in Singapore and the Philippines and Indonesia, and obviously now China with the China Cup and the Asia Cup and things going on, but it's great to see the growth in the South American countries as well.
It's sensational, and then every now and again when you look at the worldwide, and I've got to keep a kind of a future focus.
Tristan. You're getting some mic technique there, mate. That one needs to go right in there.
Go right in there.
Either that or use the booming voice, which I keep getting trouble for using in the commentary booth.
Booming voice. To me, we've got to watch around the world what's going on. And every now and again, there's another place saying they're playing hockey. So the other day, Rwanda and Tanzania came through. We see, I think, maybe a little bit in Chile happening. So... it's great to see the sport, but what worries me at a ward level and doing these events is suddenly you've got to plan for 50 teams and be able to do a budget of 35, and that's really difficult.
Yeah, and how are we going to get them to qualify, and how are we going to play all the zones fairly, and how are we going to make it work? I mean, you've only got to look at something like the Soccer World Cup and all the issues they've had, over not just years or decades, but over 20, 30, 40 years trying to figure out, okay, how do we set up the seeding grades to fit all these teams into and how does it all end up fair? And there's always someone that gets left out. So I don't envy the task you've got ahead of you there, Tristan. Good luck with that one. But it's also been great to look at the engagement we've had from some of the viewers. And, YouTube's a great thing. It comes with the back end of all the Google Analytics and being able to see, okay, we've got people watching in Sweden. How much are they watching? How old are they? What sex are they? What's going on? So we're going to come out at the end of this with a great understanding of where our demographic is for World Underwater Hockey and how do we pitch it to grow the sport and do all those kind of things. And that's certainly a task for you and me to sit down after this and have a look at. And to be honest, I'm looking forward to it all kind of coming down so I don't have to spend 14 hours at the pool every day. But I'm actually excited about looking into all that information and seeing what we can come up with.
Look, you've done a fantastic job. You led the team well. I know we've had discussions, and as we've built up every month, every week, look, it's great to see, You can't be just amazed. That's the key to all of this. The engagement that these people are getting into it. South America, we talked about the GoFundMe. Well, if everybody paid 50 cents, my God, it pays the bills. It's awesome. So it's great to see all these results going on.
It's all coming together here, day 5, as we do a bit of a wrap-up of where those analytics are taking us. So I'll give you the top 3 games watched so far. Tristan, we got game number 16. French versus Turkey men's 23 game, which was an early on one, which the Turks got just over the French in a 2-1 nail-biter. Game number 8, the men's under-19s, Colombia versus Great Britain. And game number 23, the women's 23, Colombia versus Great Britain. So there's certainly something going on with our GB and Colombian audience.
Yeah, I think also we need to look at the time of the day as well, if it's more suitable to the Northern Hemisphere versus the Southern Hemisphere. And then we're starting to see the South America there, Colombia and Argentina. So maybe we've got to start thinking about when I do the rosters, thinking what time zone would be more appropriate for those games to be played to really boost that up if we can.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So we're 1,386 subscribers to the YouTube channel now. We've had 50,555 views for a total watching of 397,823 minutes, which if you sat down and watched it all in one row, Tristan, is 276 days and 6 hours of watching.
Well, you'd have to go to the toilet a lot during that time. It's amazing.
It's it's a lot of hockey that's being watched, and thanks for everyone that is tuning in out there. If you are enjoying the stream and the broadcast and the work from the Glory Days, then jump on the GoFundMe page and throw a couple of bucks there. I notice we're starting to get more donations. You know, $2 here, $3 there, $4 there. So it's all adding up. The Facebook page, 1,932 followers on that now, with our reach for this week sitting at 185,969. So we've cracked that 150, which is good. So hopefully we'll keep that active, and we'll try and push through that 200,000 or maybe 250,000 for the week.
Yeah, I think people with the Facebook, if we can definitely tag everybody, share it onto the Federation Facebook pages and all of those things, that'll really help us with the reach. What I'd really like to see is people starting to think about how do we use this to promote the sport in their country. How can I get kids playing the sport? You know, I sit down with the New Zealand committee quite often and say, look, ultimately I'd like you to double the secondary school numbers. You know, I want to just go from about 800 kids playing the sport to 1,600. Imagine the competition it is to make a representative national side if you've got that amount of players to pick from. So, you know, people just say, look, let's throw it out there. How far can we set the bar, and let's go after it.
Yeah, no, sky's the limit, mate. It's just your imagination is the only thing that really slows you down, and the number of hours there are in the day generally. But look, if there's anything else you'd like to see us doing at the tournament, we had Steve Cars send us another message this morning. Hey, can you do a little video to show us, you know, what's going on behind the scenes, how many volunteers there are, what's the pool layout, all that kind of stuff. We've popped that up, and that's had, I think, 1,000 views already. So if there's anyone you want us to interview, anyone in particular you want an opinion from, or anything you'd like to see done, then we're certainly keen for a challenge to keep us busy. Not that we don't have enough to do already, but I'm always interested in what else we can be doing.
Look, it's amazing. Interviewing some of the coaches. We do have a development meeting scheduled for the 20th, and that'll be really interesting to see the successes of the federations in trying to develop their sport, as well as the challenges, and seeing whether there's anything you can gain from it. So that'll be an interesting thing as well. I look at this tournament, and you know, we've talked about a lot of the things we've done here, and we've challenged the bar. I think, from my perspective, we've hit the best ever. But we've got to keep going, and I don't think we're going to be happy with where we are now. So let's see what we do come finals day. That'll be a great event.
Yeah, no, that's certainly what we're looking for. And I mean, what I'm scared of is what the final episode of the Glory Days is going to be in about probably 2 weeks after this tournament, when we sit down and we wrap it all up and we have a look through it all and see what's going on. So and then I'll be able to kind of kick my shoes off, lie back on the couch, and enjoy winter here in Hobart. But until that stage, thanks for joining me on the couch tonight, Tristan.
It's been a pleasure, Nick. So keep up the good work, mate. You got my help anytime.
And you actually, before I let you go, you managed to get out in Hobart and get some mountain biking done. My old man took you for a bit of run down the mountain tonight, mate.
Yeah, it was fantastic coming down. We did about 15 Ks in about an hour. So it was a ripper. It's nice and steep and plenty of jumps. And I missed the last jump, bit of a stack at the last one. But no, it was a great couple of hours off. Must say, look, in the last 8 years of doing this role, I've never really got out of the pool complex. It's been my bed, eat, and at the pool.
You and I have swapped roles then, because that kind of sounds like what I've been doing for the last few days.
And that's a credit to your team. And we sit down, we have our checklists, and we go through things. You know, most of the stuff is all planned. We've known about different bits and things that have worked in the past. And then, of course, we'll sit down, hopefully, with the Canadians doing the next Worlds, as well as maybe some people from, I'll let it out of the bag, from the UK. Yep. Sit down with them and try and pass on the tips and tricks. And obviously also thinking about it, our disasters and how to avoid them. So that'll be awesome.
No. So all we got to do is make sure we break Stuart Parkinson's leg about 2 weeks before the tournament next time, and then you'll have him as a full-time commentator again.
Yeah, no, he's done a fantastic job on Parko. So no, proud and seeing him on the couch. The poor guy's got a serious break there, so it's amazing the amount of effort he's putting in.
Yep, and he can talk a lot of shit. He's just good at talking. So, thanks for joining us on the couch for the Glory Days tonight to wrap up Day 5. Until tomorrow, where we pick up some glory moments in the morning. We'll see you then. Thanks for watching.
Good night.